Hi everybody, it's Tammy. Welcome back. Today's video is going to be Aries 2 because we are now moving on from the first decan to the second decan. So our first decan it started March 21st to 30th, and we are now in the 31st to the 20th. So we are now in our second decan, which is awesome, right? These are all the cards from the previous decan, the one that we just came out of. And it's crazy because I never saw the Two of Wands in this light before. So it's completely changed my feelings about what the Two of Wands means when I get it for now on in a reading. It's insane to me. And it kind of leaves me shooken a little bit because I'm like, man, I thought I had my keywords and like my ideas of the cards down pat, right? I've been doing this a very long time, but obviously not. I just didn't think about it that way, I guess, right? Because remember, we're talking about how it's about conquering, it's that aggression, it's that pressure, it's that pushing through and taking over. It's insane to me. So when I look at these cards, they definitely encompass the energy that was going on here in the last 10 days, 100%. So when it first started, we were leaving like the last decan, which was in Pisces, right, which is water, and then we were going into the zodiacal new year beginning with the decan 1, which we just did, Aries 1, right, with the Two of Wands being the first card. When that transition was happening, I was starting to have a lot of problems with my furnace, and my furnace like literally died like right in the middle of it all, like right in the changing of the 2 days. So it was like leaving that water energy and going into that fire energy. And I talked about it in some of my previous videos. It so fit that time. It was like battling water and our pipes freezing because it's cold here still, right? And we lost all of our furnace, all of our heat, everything. So we were cold for we were almost we were so cold in here for like 5 days. It was almost 5 days by the time the new furnace got up and going and running and all that stuff. So it was like battling that element, battling the cold, battling my water pipes from freezing, battling getting fire back, getting fire into the heart of my home, warming my home. So like very much all those energies was there. And losing a furnace is very much a tower situation, I will tell you. And it was about conquering it, getting it done, ripping this old, hunk of junk 20-something-year-old neglected, not maintained furnace out and getting the new one in. And it was like all these cards, like when I look at them, I'm like, yes, like that is exactly what happened. It was a hard beginning to the zodiacal new year. And the thing that's kind of silly is like, this is how the zodiacal new year starts. And it's like, really, we're going to start out on like that kind of footing, like the beginning of the year. Like that's crazy. Like, I don't know. It's insane to me. But I guess it gives you a really good strong dose of that aggressive Aries side, right? So it's like not holding back. And it's like 100% like, here I am, right? And then I think of the song like, here I am, rock you like a hurricane, right? Which is kind of going back really, really old school. A lot of people don't even know what I'm talking about. But that's 100% the energy that had existed. There was a lot of disruptions. There was a lot of arguments. There was a lot of disagreements. There was a lot of people like flexing and like trying to show power in situations. And like, I mean, like everyday silly stuff. Like I would see stuff happening at like a convenience store or stuff happening at like the post office. And it's just like this aggression that came in, and people like I said, like dominating and just being like, it's my way or no way. And so it was very much that energy. And like I said, it changes my thoughts and opinions of the Two of Wands greatly. So, but this is what we're here for, right? This is what this is all about. This is about bringing in that zodiac and the, you know, the other elements and all of the different things that are in place that are hidden within these systems that most people just kind of look over and fluff off and ignore, right? But they're there, and we got to pay attention to them because it's the foundation of tarot, right? Like at least these decks, according to the Golden Dawn and the RW, right? So it's like, and even the Thoth, like, right? Like it's just, it's quite interesting. So these are our cards, like I said, and we're going to change them out now, and we're going to look at this new energy that's coming in. The Emperor is still staying, right? Because he's Aries based. These cards all still stay the same. We're still in the cardinal, right? We're still in Aries. We're still having the fire element. Let me just get my tablet here, and I'll show you on the wheel. So we're still fire, we're still cardinal, we're still Aries, right? So we're still cardinal, we're still Aries, we're still fire. Those all stay the same. So the Emperor stays. But then we're switching to the Three of Wands. And let's see how this energy changes when I do this. And the Tower is leaving, thank freaking God. And we're having the Sun come in, which is crazy, right? Like think about like that complete opposite energy. So we have the Sun, the Three of Wands, right? So this period is March 31st to April 20th. All right, so we've got these switched out. I'm going to switch out the Hermetic Tarot. Oops, I took away the Emperor. Let's put him back. The Sun, the Three of Wands. We are in the gibbous moon, waning gibbous moon. So I brought out that card for us to look at as well. So I know in the first video I said I wasn't going to be using the Moonology all the way through, but I decided I actually kind of like it, and I like the messages that's bringing through. I have like a love-hate relationship for the Moonology deck. I always like bash on it and give it a hard time and, you know, think that it's not capable of doing what I need it to do. And it always proves me wrong every freaking time. So I don't know. I need to just accept it. So I'm going to just keep using it because I feel like it's doing a good job. All right, so this is our change. Can you feel that change of energy? I feel like it's become very like positive. It's become a little bit more grounded. It's become a little bit more stable. All right, we're going to look at the Hermetic Tarot book in a minute, but let's get in and see what T.Susan Chang said. So like I said, we are in the Aries Two. What she has in her book, she's calling the Kingdom of Gold, right? We've got that Sun card coming in. Remember in Aries 1, we talked about that return of the Sun, that return of the energy, the light, you know, all of that different stuff, right? And we've seen it in a bunch of the different things. And we definitely have it here now. So it's like that Sun is now here. It is now present. We're not just talking about it, it's actually here now, right? So I feel like that was really neat. So in the Two of Wands, I'm going to quote her book. In the Two of Wands, she says, we witness the ruthless conquest with the Two of Wands, right? That crushing, that dominating, that taking over, right? Which is insane to me. But in the Three of Wands, we're seeing the reconstruction of the land, the power of good government to attend to the well-being of all, which is amazing and interesting, right? Because it's such a different energy, and I'll get into the reasons in a minute, okay? So the last Decan that just happened, Decan 1, she talks about how the Emperor has many jobs, right? He must conquer in the Two of Wands. He must govern in the Three of Wands. And he must celebrate or consecrate with the Four of Wands, right? His leadership. And we see that in the Four of Wands. If he is to stay in control, if he is to be who he says he is, he needs to do that, right? All of those different acts. which is phenomenal. So talking about the Emperor, we see that in the Three of Wands in the Hermetic Tarot. Lord of established strength, right? It's saying he's done it. It's his. It's his. He just now has to maintain it, right? And when I look at the Three of Wands, before I used to think about it like putting your thoughts out, putting it into action, watching your boat sail away with all of your ideas and your passions and your creativity and the things that you're trying to bring forth, right? And it's like they're setting it out, but now it's not. It's very much about that, making sure that everything runs properly, standing on that top of that hill, having that bird eye view, and just watching your kingdom run like a well-oiled machine, right? And it's insane to me. It's so crazy. And if you look at the Two of Wands, he's wearing armor. You can't even tell until you really look close, but there's a hint at that Emperor energy, right? He's still wearing his armor. So if he has to kick butt, he'll still kick butt, right? But he doesn't have to because he's already done it. But just in case, right? You never know. Someone might challenge him. But it's like that, standing and looking over his domain, looking over what he's conquered and what he's taken, and just like looking as far as the eye can see, right? And he's just looking over his full kingdom, which is amazing. When we look at the Sun card, a lot of this red sashes, right? We see it in the cloak. We see it in the cloak. We see it in the cloak, right? So you're seeing a lot of similarities. We have the sunflowers that are popping up, which is like all is well. Everybody's happy. Everything's doing good. We're that celebrating energy, right? That solar return, that everything's good, everything's in place. The battle is done. What needed to be won is won. And that's amazing. If we look at the Sun card from the Hermetic Tarot, we have Lord of the Fire of the World. And you see people dancing and celebrating underneath the sun, right? Very cool. Let's give a quick look back at the Hermetic Tarot of the Emperor of the Hermetic Tarot. So Sun of the Morning. And it almost looks like this right here is a sunflower that he's holding. I might be wrong, but it looks like a sunflower to me. And like the symbolism is so deep, right? Just so deep. It's amazing. I'm not going to touch on these three cards again because we've already talked about them. If you need to recap, you can always go back to Aries 1 and recap on those cards. But we know about the Aries energy, right? We know the cardinal is the beginning of a season, and the fire is that element that comes forward, that passion, that drive, that determination, right? So, which is still all of this is about, because it all had to happen to have this, right? And you have to have all those things to still be a Three of Wands, to still be standing on the edge of that cliff, looking over your domain, right? So it's still very much all there. Let's get into the Hermetic Tarot and let's read about this. Let's start with the Three of Wands. Let's start in the center. So, Lord of the Established Strength. A hand ensuing from heavy clouds holds Three of Wands in the center. Two crossed wands and one upright. Flames emanate from the junction and from both sides, like gigantic pillars. The center wand has the sun at the top and the head of a ram representing Aries at the bottom. The center wand has a sun at the top and the head of a ram representing Aries is at the bottom. The symbol of the sun and Aries are shown. This card pertains to the second decan of Aries ruled by the sun. thus Sun in Aries. And then they say the degrees 10 to 20, right? So when we look at this card, we're seeing the Aries at the bottom. We're seeing the Sun sign. We're seeing the Aries sign. We have the Sun up at the top. The tops of these wands almost have like a flower like top to them, almost like a sunflower. And we've got those two pillars, and we have the Sun and the Aries sign once again. The flames are going up and they're coming out from the Sun. So very much like, I don't know, it brings in this energy very, very well. Beautiful, eh? Okay. Now let's look at these two. And I'm going to read the Emperor because I don't think in the last video I read about the Hermetic Dawn's write-up of the Emperor. I think I ended up skipping it. All right, so Son of the Morning. Beneath the Emperor's left foot is a bee, the alchemical equivalent of the ram. Oh, interesting. Two wild Himalayan ram heads, one at the left upper and the other at the center right, relates to the sign of Aries, which appears at the right. The eagle and the flag combine to suggest a conqueror and the idea of authority. Supernatural powers are suggested at the top of the card by the celestial bodies that personify power and also sudden, random, and violent activity. The orb is surmounted by a Greek cross at the lower left signifies the energy has reached a successful end and that the government and or governmental rule has been firmly established. Wow, like who'd thought these cards were so aggressive? But they are. And now I'll see that Emperor energy as something so different as well. Right? I always saw him as authoritative, but not like crushing and like, ugh, you know what I mean? Like taking it down and over. Like it's just insane. But then once you look at the card, you're like, well, yeah, it makes so much sense. Like, why didn't I see that before? Right? But insane. Okay, let's get to the Sun. Okay, so the Sun, Lord of Fire of the world. You know what? I'll just hold this card up so you guys can see the card. Let's get it into focus. All right, beneath a fiery sun, two children dance wildly, and roses appear between them and behind each of them. The rose represents the flowering of the solar influence. The dancing sirens are young, shameless, and innocent. The sun and its heat are a beneficial source of life and a melter of waxen wings of ambition and curiosity. The sun radiates upon the children. Isn't that beautiful? Just gorgeous. So much taken from it, eh? It always just surprises me so much. I'm like, this is amazing. And then if we're going to take our moon into consideration, we've got you're very close to achieving your goals. I feel like he's already achieved his goals. So that's kind of a little off, right? But it's very much about achieving goals. It's very much about going after things. It's very much about putting that action and movement into motion, right? To do it, to go after it, which I feel is still very much encompasses this, right? But this is very general and it just kind of goes under like what that moon kind of stands for. They're not taking it quite into consideration. I'm sure if I got the card on Aries out of this deck, it would probably be a little bit more in tuned to that. But we've got, you're very close to achieving your goals. And I feel like that kind of still has an underlying energy here, right? Because I do feel that there's a little bit of like leaking over of energies, right? I feel like it takes a little bit to still get things going. And it's very interesting that it's saying you're very close to achieving your goals because our furnace system's in, right? My full furnace system is in. However, my central air isn't in yet. And the person who's been doing all this work for us is coming back today, and he is going to finish up the entire job today, and he's going to put in my AC, get everything working and running and ready for the summer, which is not too far away, really, when you think about it. So it is very close to me achieving my goals and having my complete system of my house completed, right? So I feel like that's kind of interesting how that's come into play. But that's the moon energy, right? I don't know, really quite cool. When I look at this card, I think about what Susan says in her book, how she talks about how he's not turning his back in disrespect. He's turning his back and has his back to us on the card as absolute trust. He is so sure of himself and so sure of his capabilities and what he's done and has achieved that he has no problem having his back to people because he's that trusting and that sure of who he is and the things that he's done. So that's really quite a powerful thought as well too. But I just think it's crazy how he's still wearing his armor. And it's like, are we seeing the Emperor in this card as a youth? You know what I mean? Like, this is him and what he's had to do to become this, right? To be sitting on this throne. This is him at the beginning when he conquered his kingdom. And then this is years later and who he's become because of these acts, right? I don't know, just a little bit of the things that are like rolling around in my brain and the different things that I've picked up on. Very crazy. I love when we get into these and start looking at the energies. I'm like, oh my God, this is so freaking cool. It's amazing. All right, another thing I wanted to talk about is we still have, and I'm just going to touch on them really fast. We're just going to kind of mention them. I'm not going to go into them. But remember how we have those underlying cards that are still taking place, right? And when we get into Susan's book, if you look at her Decan wheel, we're still in the Queen of Wands energy. We're still, for the entire season pretty much, like I said, until June 20th, we're still in the Page or Princess of Pentacles. And at that time, we're still in the Ace of Pentacles as well, too. So I'll just grab those cards really fast and we can take a quick little peek at them. So these are the three that are still in. So the Queen of Wands, the Princess of Pentacles, and the Ace of Pentacles. So these are other cards that we can take into consideration that are very much part of the energies that are happening during this time of year. Let's look at the Rider-Waite ones. So in the Rider-Waite, our Queen of Wands, who is holding a sunflower and showing that solar energy, right? In Rider-Waite's, it's a page, not a princess. So here's our Page of Pentacles, which is very much like that strolling across that land, right? We see the mountains in the background, the same way we see the mountains in the background on the Three of Wands, right? And then once again, there's mountains in the background of the Emperor card as well, too. So there's a lot of mountains in this, which is very interesting. And we see it in the Ace of Pentacles as well, those mountains in the background. So these are just other cards that you can tap into on your own. Like I said, I'm not going to go too crazy into them. I did talk about them a little bit in depth in the first video. So if you wanted to get back into that a little bit more, you can always go back and revisit that first video. I will show them to remind you guys that they're still very much present. However, I'm obviously just not going to get too repetitive, right? Like it could get really repetitive and we've kind of already visited these, but you guys know that this is other energies that are taking place, underlining energies that are a part of this as well too, right? So in Susan's book, she does talk about how there are other cards, right? That kind of go into that energy, right? We will see the pattern, Mars to the sun, and we'll see that repeated 5 times throughout the minors. We'll see that sun coming forward in a bunch of the different cards, and she lists like a bunch of the different cards here that have that same feeling. She talks about having a look at the 5 solar decans, which are our virtue, ruin, prudence, pleasure, and power, which doesn't exist in the Rider-Waite system, right? I believe that's more Thoth. I believe those are in the Thoth deck, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that, don't quote me. I am very rusty on my Thoth. She talks about the 3 of Wands, right? But then she also talks about the 10 of Swords, the 8 of Pentacles, the 6 of Cups, and the 4 of Pentacles. So there is she's talking about the other sun cards, right? And being able to compare the different energies that exist when the sun comes in. So we'll see. The poem that comes with it is called Night Visions by Paula Gunn Allen. You can probably look that one up if you wanted to and read from it. Or if you have the book, you can totally visit that. But I don't know. Like, I'm feeling like we'll see how this energy comes in. I noticed in her book, she talked about how when this energy comes in, everything runs like a well-oiled machine, right? Everything's very, very governed and controlled and just runs flawlessly. It'll be interesting because we're in Mercury in retrograde, which Mercury will probably disrupt that, right? So Mercury is all about that. It interrupts our communication. It interrupts our relationships. It affects technology and communication, and there's a lot of errors in it, right? So we'll see how that shines its energy into this Decan, right? It's very interesting because we got to think about that planetary, like the space weather, right? That's happening, and Mercury's in retrograde. So we're going to see how that kind of affects this. But she talks about how it's like a well-oiled machine, like how she got this card on voting day, right? And how voting is so like structured. You go in, there's a way to do it. There's a way that you have to, it's private. You go to the booths, you fill out the stuff, you have to go over, you have to fold the slip up, you have to put it in the box. Like, it's very structured, right? And the interesting thing about that is the gentleman who's coming to work on my furnace today, who is my brother, he's very structured. He is very routine. He is very methodical in his approach and very professional in the way he does things. So he very much encompasses this energy. So it's really cool that like he's showing up on a day that this is all changing, right? So and turning into that energy. So very, very, very cool. I'm already seeing how this is going to play out, but let's see what happens over the next 10 days. And I will see you guys for Aries 3, which is the next decan. All right, so that next energy is coming in from April 11th to April 20th, right? So this one's March 31st to April 10th. And then the next one is April 11th to the 20th. But now what's really interesting about this, so that's our last decan of Aries, right, is April 11th to the 20th. So that'll be the next one. So I'll see you guys on April 11th for Aries 3. However, I did notice if you do have this book, her decan wheel is a little bit, just shut it up myself. Her decan wheel is a little bit different. Her dates are different. And the reason why her dates are a little bit different is because she's taking into consideration cusps, right? She's included the starting and ending cusp dates for each decan because the cusps vary a bit from year to year depending on what exact day the sun arrives, right? Cusps are when the day is split between the two signs, right? So it's when Taurus is turning to Gemini or Gemini is turning to Cancer, how they kind of both share a same day. They call that day a cusp day, right? Modern day astrology has removed cusps and they do not believe in cusps. So this this decan wheel that we're looking at here is based on modern astrology and has removed the cusps, right? But the cusps are a thing, and the cusps are the way that it should be, right? So I'm very, very much about taking into consideration. So in her days, she's got the 21st to the 30th, and then she's got from April 1st to April 10th. So there's like those 2 days of that blending of energy that happens, right? So we definitely need to take that into consideration. However, we've already started out using modern astrology, so we'll stick with that, but we'll definitely refer back to the book, and we'll talk about how there's those couple days of that blending of energy that happens, right? So just keep that in mind. So if you're following this book, that's what's going on. But yeah, so spend your time journaling, thinking about how these energies are coming forward. Look at the next 10 days and this Decan time. And that is kind of the energy that we're looking for, and seeing how that's coming forward in our life, right? It helps us to better relate to the energy of the cards when we can place them in our own personal life and our own personal things that happen, right? So I'll be seeing you guys on the next video, which will take place on April 11th. This is the energy that's going to be in place from the 31st of March till April 10th. And then on April 11th, we go into that next Decan, right? Which is Aries 3. Hopefully this next Decan is going to be awesome for you. I know the first Decan was a little rough and it was a little rocky, and I was like, whoa. But now this is looking good. Anytime I see the Sun card, I'm like, yes, things are going to be awesome. All right, so like I said, I'll see you guys on the next video. Enjoy.